Alright.
Welcome back. I'm Brady Bueller. I am joined now by Eric Froelich.
Hello.
You got any thoughts on that one? It seemed like Martel drew perfect off that bizarre in the second game.
Yeah, it is what it is. What are you going to do?
Yeah. Tough matchup for you, though, right? I mean, it seems like...
I think I was pretty well prepared for the matchup, but, you can't beat some draws, so...
Do you think you're a favorite in that matchup in general?
I don't know. That's a good question. Game one's going to be rough. I have, with the Trinket Mages, I need to draw fast mana.
Right. You got to get the one Graph Digger's Cage down quickly, and you couldn't do it quickly enough without multiple Moxes that game.
Right. I mean, I have 5 Moxes, the Crypt, the Soul Ring, the Black Lotus, and, he cast Blind Therapy and hit the Trinket Mage, or I would have been able to cast it a couple turns earlier and been okay, but,
Although, to be fair, if you don't draw the one-up Strip Mine, it doesn't even matter. The Cage would have been way too slow.
Yeah, I mean, I'm mulliganed 5-land Consecrated Sphinx opening hand. It's a 6-card hand that wasn't great either. So, and he had, Bizarre on 6 with 3 Dredgers, and I was going to be pretty far behind. So, yeah, if I don't draw Strip Mine, I'm completely dead. And if I do, I need, some things to go right. After
sideboard plan did look good. That's definitely true.
Yeah.
But yeah, he drew the Nature's Claim, drew the colored mana, drew the Undiscovered specifically to go with the Nature's Claim.
Yeah.
All right, so we got one match left. Josh Utter-Leyton versus Bob Maher. Are those guys ready to play? Awesome. Let's go watch. You have a take on this matchup?
Yeah, I think Bob's gonna have a good time.
Seems like Bob wins his first match here. I agree with you.
I think Bob gets on the board, yeah.
Yeah, Josh has shown up with a crazy Pyromancer's Ascension brew straight out of Modern in some ways. But he's run into workshops. And if there's one thing workshop decks feast on, it is Storm combo decks.
Absolutely. And it's not able to play quite as many robust cards. Of course, Storm combo decks like you're playing, they feature so many restricted cards. Like those are the most powerful cards in Vintage. There's a reason they're restricted. Josh can't play those cards because he's playing Pyromancer's Ascension, so he has to play 4 of. So Josh has four Pyroblast main, and Bob is not playing colored cards. So that's a good indication of where we're at. Let's just put it that way.
All right, so Bob looks like he's got Ancient Tomb, but no Workshop? Oh, no, Workshop. Yeah, Bob's draw is great. Oh, and he's on the play? So he gets to play a turn 1 Chalice. And she's going to Chalice 1, it looks like? Is that what that is?
Okay,
yeah,
so
Chalice is on 1.
Josh's hand is already down a card thanks to Pyroblast, and now he's looking at 4 lands and nothing. So
wow, Josh kept 4 lands and 3 1-mana spells. Bob Maher led with Chalice for 1. Savage.
Yeah, that seems like a good play here, right? Crazy.
All right, well,
oh, wow. Raptor drew a card he could cast. A 5th mana.
What a beating. Yeah, now he just goes to Ancient Tomb into Lodestone Golem. Yeah.
All right,
it's a good stacks draw, and it's particularly good against this Pyromancer list.
Okay, so Raptor's out is draws Ascension, which he can cast because of the Mox last turn, and then start drawing copies of cards he has, let him get countered by Chalice, but getting counters on the Ascension. Of course, he dies to Lodestone Golem years before this matters, but...
Hilariously, Bob can play a Sundering Titan here, but Josh doesn't have any lands in play with any basic land types. He hasn't cracked his fetch lands.
Yeah, he can just play the Ancient Tomb and set up. Or the Lightning Greaves up there. Wait.
Yeah. Crazy.
All right, so sideboarding options.
You're saying the hasty Sundering Titan is going to get it done? That's your read on this?
It is crazy. Like, the percentage of times we've had great games that aren't over turn 1 is extremely high. But we've had a lot of games over on turn 1. Like, legitimately over turn 1. Like, you look at the Pakula match today, they were just over. Like, turn 1, Rich Shay plays Jace. The game was just over. And then Pakula goes off on his turn. Like, if you remember back our very first match we ever had was Pakula again versus Martel, where neither of them played a land in the 2 games they lost before game 3. And then you have...
Yeah, no, I think... I was talking about this with Steve. I think it's about a third. Like, a third of all the games you play in Vintage, somebody just blowout wins by the first or second turn. And like half the time it's you and half the time it's them. But I feel like a majority of the games actually go longer than that. And it's just like we keep winding up in these weird, long, strange scenarios, but that kind of is normal for Vintage. You just wind up in, half your games or, 2/3 of your games wind up in these weird, strange, long scenarios.
Yeah, I mean, certainly a lot of the games are not going to just end on turn one, but I also feel like there's not a lot of games that are going to be as crazy and long and intense as we've had in this league. I feel like
Are you
we've got
sure?
a little
I mean,
bit.
it's week 7, right? We're starting to add up to real data.
Maybe.
Oh, Josh drew a spell that he can resolve. Manamorphose is not countered by Chalice. That is the first spell in the game that isn't countered by Chalice.
Then there's nothing he can draw to do anything.
Right. But he gets to cast a spell. He's on the board with
cast all these
another
spells.
1-mana spell. Jeez. Chalice for a 1. What a blowout.
This is like, see, he could have cast all those spells. It was like my match versus you a couple weeks ago where you got to cast your spells. They just got countered when they mattered.
Did not resolve, exactly.
Yeah. None of Josh's spells could resolve at any point, but he could cast them on us.
All right, well, we'll get out of this match and check out the sideboards. I'm sure Josh wants to take the Pyroblasts out of his deck. I'm not sure what he has to bring in, though. Does he have an anti-workshop package?
He has to. I mean, you've got to be prepared for workshop deck in some extent. I mean, you're playing, a deck with heavy red, and as we've seen from a lot of the other decks, there's a lot of good red cards that can kill artifacts.
Oh, 4-ofs, of course. 4 times Shattering Spree. It seems like a much better card.
And 2 more Ingot Chewers, card that we've seen a few times in some of the other matchups.
Yeah, Pyromancer might actually be good in this matchup. You probably bring those in too, right?
Oh, absolutely, because, I mean...
That's how you're winning. You're not going to go off with the Ascension. Well, I mean, it's a lot harder to go off with the Ascension when your opponent is all...
Right, it's a lot easier now. Like, as we've discussed in previous weeks, Bob's deck is very different from Bakula's deck. He's not actually playing a whole bunch of spheres. He actually has no sphere of resistance. He has Thorn only. So, it's not quite as hard to go off as it might normally be. I don't know how many anti-graveyard cards he has, which, of course, could turn off Ascension themselves. Pyromancer is great.
2 Tormod Script is the answer to that.
Yeah, 2 Tormod Script, sure. So, Young Pyromancer does a great job of putting blockers in the way of cards like Lodestone Golem and even Sundering Titan, and these giant creatures just tend to not have trample. Of course, Bob can go over the top of all of that, which is weird to say go over the top when you're talking Sundering Titan, as he has Lightning Greaves and Forgemaster to go get Blightsteel.
That's what you do. Yep, that seems like how it lines up. I don't know if Josh will leave his Ascensions in, or maybe just take them out and go all just Pyromancer.
Yeah, Josh, actually, it looks like he is the only deck I've seen, really, ever, that can't deal with Blightsteel. Like, he has no way to clone it, as we've discussed in some of the artifact decks. Obviously, you can't kill it; it's indestructible, and he has no way at all to bounce or anything like that.
Right? Cage if you really wanted an answer.
Sure, but it's pretty hard to dilute your deck with something like Grafdigger's Cage when you're already boarding in, all these other cards.
Agreed.
I mean,
yeah, no, I think you got to rely on the Shattering Sprees and the Ingot Chewers, and then hope you get enough Young Pyromancer tokens to win. If you blow up enough artifacts, then hopefully Bob doesn't have time to set up Forgemaster and Lightning Greaves.
Right. I mean, that's of course Raptor's hope, is that he does stuff before Blightsteel can finish the job, but it's not always easy to do. I mean, Bob's certainly playing quite a bit of disruption in his own deck. And Metalworker you can just basically hardcast it pretty quickly. A lot of artifacts in this deck, not a lot of lands. I think the other key card in Bob's deck, which we saw, of course, turn 1 that game, was Chalice of the Void. His deck is very heavy at the 1 slot.
Yeah, and Bob knew exactly what to do with that. He wasn't even tempted, but, often on the play against a blind opponent, if you don't know what they're up to, Chalice 0, just lock out all their moxes before they get a chance to drop them. But he's seen Raptor's deck list. He knows how many 1s are in. All right, let's go to the game now.
Raptor on the play, so I at least like his chances of being able to cast something this game.
They're definitely higher.
Oh, yeah, they have to be higher.
He did cast 1 spell last time.
He cast Mox Ruby. Let's give him a little credit. He ripped that lucky.
Sorry, 2 spells, right. Ruby and the Manamorphose.
He cast 2 mana spells.
All right, what does his hand do? Bunch of nothing?
Doesn't do anything currently, but it has a lot of draws into hitting things that can do things.
Yeah, whereas Bob is looking at Lodestone Golem and Chalice.
Which he can cast both of them turn 1 pretty easily with Workshop and Soul Ring.
So, Workshop, Soul Ring. He can't Chalice 1.
He can cast either one, I was trying to say.
Yeah, either one, but not both.
No, no.
The mock short of doing both. Well, there's the Ascension still in the deck.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess you have an Ascension deck. He has to try to run it, right?
I don't know. You have to talk to Raptor. I don't know if he's all in on the Pyromancer plan or whatnot. He's going to have some weaker cards just because he started with 4 Pyroblasts.
Sure.
It's hard to
It's just
necessarily.
a question of what's the other card he's with sideboarding out.
Right.
The other probably other 4 of.
Yeah, I haven't studied the deck list or the matchup close enough to know exactly what he wants to do. He can certainly shave Pyromancer's Ascension copies at the least, because once it's in play, it's in play. I mean, nothing's going to happen to it. And he doesn't need 4 ofs like he does with. Well, obviously, when you have Ascension in your deck, you need 4 ofs because you need to trigger it. So, but you don't need more copies of Ascension necessarily. So it's something that can be shaved. I don't know if that's reasonable or not, honestly. So.
Well, he's got an Ingot Chewer. That'll help.
That will help. That does mean, because Bob could have just played turn 1 Soul Ring Chalice for 1, which shut out most of Raptor's deck, including the 2 Lightning Bolts in hand, setting up the Lodestone Golem with no answer. But Ingot Chewer means that he can both blow up the Chalice and then cast the Lightning Bolt to kill the Lodestone Golem. Not in the same turn, but something.
So you think Chalice for 1 is more important for Bob than the Lodestone Golem?
I'm not sure. It just looked like if he did go that route, it was just going to basically completely shut out Raptor. So
yeah, I think Chalice for 1 is the line, but Bob goes Lodestone. Certainly uses his mana more efficiently this way.
Yeah,
and I guess letting Josh have a bunch of 1-drops on his second turn isn't really that big a deal.
Right.
Right. He's not going to have time to play the Ascension and then play a bunch of stuff.
Well, he can't play Ascension because of Lodestone Golem, and he can't play multiple 1-drops again because of Lodestone Golem. So It does slow down Raptor no matter what. But yeah, it's interesting. I actually have no idea what the right play is there. I'm guessing that. I mean, more often than not, when you can get your Lodestone out, you want to. That ended up being a play that cost Bob, for people who've watched previously, when he played against David Williams, he went with the early Lodestone Golem play, which I think was the play that you'd want to make, not having information, not having seen David's hand. Having seen David's hand, it ended up likely costing Bob the game. So, these vintage lines, it's tough. Like, it's a guessing game, honestly. Like, I certainly don't know what's right.
All right. Well, here was Wasteland on Volcanic, and now looks like the Chalice for 1 is coming down on the second turn.
Sure.
Too late to stop that Lightning Bolt, though.
Yeah, Bob's hand actually does nothing. I mean, Duplicant, I don't know how good it is in this matchup. It certainly deals with Young Pyromancer. Not a lot of ways to do that. So it's nice to have, but certainly not a super menacing threat, I would think.
Yeah. Bob's draw is a ton of mana. He had 2 sort of taxing lockish pieces.
Well, the Lodestone Golem's a huge threat. I mean, Raptors happen to have bolts.
And if he chaliced 1, okay, fine. You might think that would stop the Lightning Bolt, but no. Ingot Chewer would have nailed it. Right. Ingot Chewer has a converted mana cost of 5 even when you evoke it. It's why you see so many Ingot Chewers around.
Also, just the 3/3 Chalice can be pretty menacing against all these artifacts. They're trying to shut you off of casting things, but if you do get that mana out, just dealing with a 3/3 is not easy. But yeah, Ingot Chewer is super powerful against exactly what you said.
That's how you beat Chalice for 1.
It is definitely an effective way.
Bob needs to draw something threatening. I mean, Josh is going to have time to set up shortly.
The bright side,
do something on his next turn. Now the Ascension starts coming down. He's got a Demonic Tutor. Fut Scour some stuff into the yard. Tangle Wire. Okay.
Buy some draw steps.
Yeah, buys you some draw steps, exactly.
It's going to be
a worker gets its beat down on.
Why not?
Get in there for 1. Take it.
Even through the Tangle Wire, next turn Bob can cast every card in his deck except for Sundering Titan and Bladesteel Colossus, I believe. He'll still have access to at least 7 mana because he would have to have drawn an artifact to cast.
Yeah.
A worker in the workshop. Despite having, only 5 permanents in play. Yeah, this game is going the way that I think Raptor would want it to go.
True.
He's not facing down too much disruption. Certainly not a clock currently. Yeah, Bob's draw was good, and Raptor's draw wasn't great. I mean, it was certainly not. I mean, it was far from bad, but it wasn't like he didn't go off on turn 1 or 2 or anything.
Well, there's a Lodestone Golem.
Lodestone Golem's good. It's actually surprisingly weak here because Raptor was already going to be forced to tap down his lands and now can just respond to the Tangle Wire trigger by actually casting his Lightning Bolt. So he's not losing any tempo and use the cards. So this actually works out, well for Raptor. Not, I mean, couldn't have gone too badly, but it actually works out pretty nicely for Raptor.
Right, so Tangle Wire on the stack. Josh can draw mana as response. Kill the Lodestone Golem.
At what point, if you're Bob, do you just hard cast Duplicant as a 2/4 vanilla? Coming up, right?
I don't know. It means it's no longer in your hand to reveal with Metalworker.
Yeah, that's true, but he has 7 mana, and if he needs to cast something, it means he's drawn another artifact. So we're looking at exactly Blightsteel.
I guess.
After we're going to be looking for a mana source to get this Ascension down, and once that happens, Bob's going to need to draw some action. I mean, Raptor's just going to start cycling through his deck. Demonic Tutor means that you're going to have quite a bit of fuel.
Yeah, you got to think DT's going to go get Yawgmoth's Will at some point.
And you thought I was joking.
No, I didn't think you were joking.
The old 6-mana Pillar Field Ox.
I mean, you do what you got to do. 3 power? What? Oh, he has to decline. He has to target. It's a you may, right? You have to target something and then decline. You have to target something.
Six mana 2/4.
Hey, look, the clock went from 15 turns to 5.
That is a sharp increase.
He just denied 10 draw phases, right?
All right, well, Raptor's going to have access to 2 mana next turn. I'm not sure. Not drawing a land that turn was pretty bad. It sets him back dramatically, but he's gonna have some good draws he could hit, I think.
Yeah, I mean, Raptor leads with an Ascension. Oh, Worm Coil will speed the clock up a bit.
That is what they're at. Not quite the 2/4 vanilla for 6. Slightly bigger.
Slightly bigger. Not taking advantage of the cavern, but what are you going to do? He's got more golems in his deck than worms.
Well, Raptor is still, I mean, if Bob doesn't draw a piece of disruption, Raptor is going to have the window. Tangle Wire gone, Ascension in play, multiple Metamorphoses to just completely go off if he can. If Bob draws disruption, well, that changes things. But if Bob bricks on this draw step,
Josh gets to go for it.
I don't know how good or bad a shape Raptor would be in.
No, no one does. This deck is kind of new. Yeah, play the Ascension, ship the turn, cross your fingers, and hope you get to go for it next turn.
Yeah, absolutely. Bob looking for a Tangle Wire or a Sphere type effect.
Ooh, Wasteland.
Don't think Wasteland's great. It's certainly better than...
It's not bad.
No, it's not bad, but if it doesn't do anything, it's pretty average. I'm not sure.
I mean, I would think it would pinch him a little bit.
Yeah, it's like I said, certainly better than drawing a Metalworker or a Duplicant or a Mishra's Workshop or an Ancient Doom or
It's better than all the creatures. Well, other than Sundering Titan.
Oh yeah, Sundering Titan is absurd, clearly. Although I guess it's not that much worse than Sundering Titan.
It's half a Sundering Titan.
Yeah. Sundering Titan's body does absolutely nothing in this case as a I don't think Raptor has any way to slow down any creatures at any point, so he's just going to die next turn if he can't win.
Yeah. I think Bob's question is which multi-land to hit. Doesn't really matter.
I think this is going to be a struggle for Raptor to go.
It looks
off.
tight. I mean,
Like,
he will have land drop.
aren't going to get double. Each Metamorphosis is going to counter on the Ascension, but you're not going to get 2 copies. So he's really going to have to hit well. Although he's going to get to tutor and copy it. That's going to be something. I guess if he gets to tutor and copy it, that means Yawgmoth will block. Yeah, I think he gets to go Metamorphose. That's 2 counters on Ascension. Assuming he draws nothing but blanks, he gets to go tutor, copy it, get Lotus Yawgmoth will, and go absolutely nuts.
Wow.
Now, whether his deck wins by going absolutely nuts and deals 26 damage or wins in some other way, I don't know. It may not. But I assume it does.
All right, there's Metamorphose.
So draws his whole deck and gets infinite mana. He gets to play more Ascensions, and each bolt gets to do a ton of damage in theory. And he gets to draw every card he wants and adds every amount of mana he wants. So I think Raptor wins, but
he's got to. If he can't win from here, then what's he playing this deck for? Deck has to win from here.
If he can't win from here, it means the deck was completely unplayable. I will give you that.
Okay. We're in agreement then.
So yeah, I believe he cast Tutor for... I guess you can Brainstorm, sure. Get double Brainstorm off. He's got some dead cards in hand currently. He still has enough mana that he's going to get to cast.
Well, how about just draw the Black Lotus natural? Who needs the Demonic Tutor for it?
Why not? So I assume he's going to crack his fetch before the second Brainstorm goes off. He doesn't want to redraw these lands he's putting back on top. Can't make another land drop, no fast
last fetch land you're ever cracking. He's down to 1.
That is true, but he cannot make another land drop, and he cannot pass the turn and live. So I think he's okay with it. I hope
he's okay with this.
This Force of Will is pretty bad right now too, but I guess Bob has no cards. So
Bob has no cards in his hand.
No cards in hand, and there's whatever. Every spell he casts is going to have so many copies at this point too.
Yeah, he's got a bunch of mana.
The question is whether we can actually see what Raptor is capable of, or if Bob, as it is very late and he's had a long day at work, is just going to pack this one up. I think Bob might want to see 2, though, so quite honestly.
Probably does. Demonic Tutor usually good enough to find something game-breaking in Vintage. 2 Demonic Tutors, even better.
Have you ever cast 2 Demonic Tutors?
I don't know what Yawgmoth Will has to be one of these. I have no idea what the other one is.
I don't know if it matters. You could. I think you get Metamorphose, honestly. Metamorphose is so good when you have a Pyromancer Ascension out.
Go get the last
Metamorphose and Yawgmoth Will, though, he gets to cast Metamorphose, make a bunch of copies, draw a bunch of cards, and then recast 4 of them, which I think is just the best card in the deck when you have Ascension out. You're gaining 2 mana and drawing 2 cards, which is obscene. It's just a ridiculous gush.
Yeah. He does, in fact, get the 4th copy of Metamorphosis.
Yeah, you just want every copy you can. It basically ensures that even less that you can fizzle, I guess. Not that I really think it's realistic that he's going to fizzle with 3 copies in his graveyard already. But.
So what's the actual kill? Is it just the lightning bolts after you get a bunch of Ascensions?
I haven't seen any other card that it could be. I mean, he could draw into a bunch of Ingot Chewers and then Time Walk and Fork it if you attack. I mean, it's certainly within reason, not outside of Raptor's range. He could also just draw a Pyromancer if it's in his deck and make a million tokens and Time Walk twice too, assuming he couldn't deal enough Lightning Bolt damage. I mean,
yeah, I guess I thought he had a Storm card at some point, but there really aren't Storm cards.
I don't think he does.
No, he has 2 Lightning Bolts and 2 Young Pyromancers. Which should be plenty. I mean, he's eventually going to cast the Demonic Tutor out of his graveyard to go get 2 more things. So he absolutely has a Time Walk turn if he wants it.
Yeah, I mean, he can gain so much mana off all these things that I assume he can cast more Ascensions. Although I'm not sure how many... Does he have rituals that aren't Metamorphoses, actually? I guess you can't actually get that much mana. This is not like the modern deck that just plays a whole bunch of rituals.
No rituals, just Metamorphose.
So I guess you can't just draw as many cards as you want and just easily cast all the Ascensions you want and turn them all on because you will run out of mana. Although his amount of mana is going to be a lot. Like, he was getting 10 off those Metamorphoses. Because
Second copy of Yawgmoth's doesn't really do much here, does it? Your cards get double exiled, maybe?
Sure. I wonder if it's still easy for him to win. This might be the exact scenario we're talking about. Like, maybe this deck is just not really great. Like, again, I still assume he wins, but it looks like it's a lot harder than it should be. This position. Yeah, with the multiple copies of Tutor, just being able to get Pyromancer and Time Walk, and he's going to get 3 turns because of the Ascension. So that's a ton of damage, but it is kind of unreal how hard it feels like it actually is.
Did he get a Pyromancer?
Yeah, Pyromancer Time Walk. At least we've been able to nail all the demonic tutors correctly. Like in Raptors.
Sound like maybe we know what we're doing.
Yeah. I mean, I assume that it's just as much guesswork for Raptors as it is for us sitting here.
Yeah, now he can chain all the Metamorphoses out of his graveyard. And
Right.
in addition to giving him mana and cards, they're also giving him elemental tokens. Although the elemental token does not trigger from the copy made by Pyromancer's Ascension. You only get 1 elemental per card.
Right. Each one of them allows him to cast 2 more spells, is basically everything. As we saw with Game 1, the Chalice for 1, most of his cards cost 1.
And now here's the other young Pyromancer. Now we can get 2. Yeah, he's just going to cast everything out of his yard and then Time Walk. Hilarious.
Yeah. Going to wait till it's the last man at a Time Walk to make sure that Bob doesn't concede, I'm sure, though. It's like, I might not be able to do it. No.
Oh, right. Bob doesn't know that he DT'd for Time Walk.
Yeah.
I mean, his mana's tight enough that he can't cast the Time Walk until the end of this, right? I guess he's going up with each of these.
Yeah, each Metamorphose is, as we've said, great. Many bolts. We still got a couple bolts in the graveyard. Those are 6 damage each and elemental tokens. So I'm just trying to figure out how much damage this. Like, let's say Bob had gained quite a bit more life somehow. How much damage could Raptor have done? At what point is Bob just out of range?
It might be a 2-digit number.
Yeah, it certainly appears that way. Although, I wonder how much mana Raptor's actually capable of getting, because he could have cast. Like, he could go down to exactly 2 mana to cast Metamorphose and have cast these Ascensions, so he would be getting 3 copies of some things.
Yeah, he could have an additional Ascension in play.
Yeah, at least 1.
At least 1.
So, who knows? Yeah, the deck's actually not capable of getting that much mana. Kind of interesting.
Yeah, it's pretty tight.
Could cast this Time Walk at any time to make Bob concede, but he's going to keep playing.
Then he has to stop playing.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not saying he should. And
Expecting the Time Walk. He just doesn't know it's in hand.
yeah. That 2/4 vanilla for 6 just came down a turn too late.
Wow, that's hilarious. Josh Utter-Leyton, ladies and gentlemen. Going off.
Pyro theme deck. Trying to take a glance at some of the cards that Raptor's drawing, just so I can have a better idea of what he might have sideboarded out. Not entirely sure yet. I guess I haven't studied the deck list too much. I guess it's possible he boards out some number of probes, or is that too good for this deck? Like, it's great for the deck, but it is generally bad in this match. It's turned off by Chalice and gets a real bad against any sphere effect.
Yeah, I mean, the Pyroblast came out. It's just...
Of course, but yeah. But we know 8 cards came in, right? Or is there not that many? Definitely the 4 Shattering Sprees and the 2 Ingot Chewers. I thought there was something else that was good.
And a Time Walk turn, and take 23.
That should do it.
With the Time Walk still floating.
Thank goodness for the attack all creatures option. Could have been here for another 25 seconds easily.
Very nice. Now, game 3. Bob being on the play,
back on-
clearly an advantage for him, especially with his deck, especially in this matchup.
Yeah, if Bob was on the play that game, he would have annihilated Raptor. I mean,
Agreed.
his opening hand was fantastic. He would have had out turn 1 Lodestone Golem, turn 2 Chalice for 1. And Raptor could have competed again because he drew the Ingot Chewer, but like it feels like he would have just been completely dead. Like that tank fire would have came down. I guess Raptor maybe could have won, but I think even the 2/4 Vanilla was just going to mop the floor with him in that game.
Yeah, I like Bob's chances, but I mean, we'll have to see how they draw.
Yeah, that is generally what it comes down to in the end in these matchups that are seemingly not so close, but could all come down to the draw.
So when do you leave for Hawaii?
I leave real early Thursday morning.
Early Thursday morning. Do you guys have a beach house or?
We have a
What's
very
the
large
setup?
house. We have a pretty big team. I don't know how close exactly it is to the beach. I think Luis has priorities closer to the Malasada stand, so we're definitely. I don't even think we're close to that. Honestly, it's kind of in the middle of nowhere. It's kind of hard to find housing in Hawaii that is under 5 figures for the week that can house an entire team of Magic players comfortably. Mm-hmm. So we weren't working with that many options. We don't have as many people willing to throw down more money than you win in the PT for a house for the week. So
just to be on the beach.
Yeah, I know that there are other teams out there that are a little cash flooded and don't mind don't mind paying for luxury. So that's pretty cool for them. But we're just gonna more focus on the Magic as much as possible. We don't have that much time. It's kind of tough. We have a lot of people who are doing crazy things like getting jobs. I don't understand it. I'm just gonna throw that out there. It's wild to me. Like, what?
Why would you have a job?
Yeah.
What's the point of that?
Just goes to work. Like, that's insane. It's in the Hall of Fame. But yeah.
Sideboard, by the way, it looks like 4 missteps of the other cards that came out. I think we just missed that going through. Missteps are terrible in this matchup. So 4 misstep, 4 Pyroblast gives him room to bring in 4 Spree, 2 Chew, 2 Pyromancer.
Yeah, of course. The mental misstep is not a good card.
No, it's awful against shots. It counters like the Soul Ring, and that's about it.
So yeah, pretty easy sideboarding for Raptor actually. Just not about missteps.
Oh yeah. Probably did not bring in the cages, I'm guessing. That's not really how he wins.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think it just dilutes the deck too much. As you see, like he really needs a high volume of action spells, and he needs to draw a bunch of cards just to be able to hit all those Manamorphoses so he can actually do anything. I mean, his deck struggles to get off the ground, I think, a little bit more than he would like.
Is it turn 1 Thorn, turn 2 Lodestone, turn 3 Lodestone? It's a good draw for Bob. Can't quite get a Lodestone down on the first turn, but the Thorn should be good enough.
Yeah, the Thorn is going to be real good against Raptor in general. Of course, Raptor did draw his Lotus, so
interesting.
He's not dead,
No.
as would often be the case.
They'll have to pay 1 for the Lotus on turn 1, and then this is going to be tough.
Yeah, it's going to be definitely an uphill climb to even make this a game, I feel like, but
we'll see.
It's not over.
Yeah, Bob goes Academy Thorn. Yeah, we talked about how Bob doesn't have as many of this kind of card as Chris does, but he drew it here, and it is definitely one of the best cards in this matchup. Not quite Chalice for 1, I guess.
I'm trying to think right now, actually, whether Raptor can win if he did boarding cages. Can this deck beat a Chops deck without Yawgmoth's?
Oh, yeah, good point. Shutting down FORGEMASTER isn't worth the cost of losing your own Yawgmoth's Will. You're totally right.
Yawgmoth's seems like
yeah, I didn't think he was bringing in the cages anyway, but yeah, the chat keeps suggesting them. So that fact that it turns off Yawgmoth's Will is very relevant.
Yeah, Raptor has a hard time getting to that critical spell count, I feel like, especially, fighting different hate cards. So
I'm actually a little bit surprised they're even in his sideboard now that you mention it. I mean, I guess against Oath or Dredge, you have to.
Yeah, it's certainly. Yeah, against decks like Oath, where you can just win with Pyromancer if they can't deal with your cage, it's certainly an option, I feel like, but I don't know. I mean,
Yeah,
there's
he's really
there are matchups where Yawgmoth's seems very big and matchups where it's not as important. This feels like one where Yawgmoth's is big.
Wow. Speaking of Yawgmoth's Will, Bob brought in Tormod's Crypt just to be able to turn it off.
And it's also
it messes with Ascension
because of Tolarian Academy.
It doubles as Mock Sapphire when you have Tolarian Academy, yes. Wow. You play Lodestone here, right? Not Koldofa?
I would.
Yeah, I would too. All right. Now all your spells cost 2 extra, Josh.
Yeah, this is not getting any easier.
Going to be really hard for Josh to get out ahead of this.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of what sequence of draws he even wants. I guess the answer is just I need Shattering Spree. Right?
Yeah, Shattering Spree. Yeah, if you had Hurkyl's Recall, that's the other card that can sometimes get you out of a spot like this. If you're in a combo deck, you kind of let them play out their stuff. It kind of doesn't matter how many, as long as you have the ability to cast one Hurkyl's Recall once.
The problem with the Hurkyl's Recall, if he had it, which we know he doesn't, is that he would have to sack his Lotus, and then it's, again, hard for him to actually do much.
Granted. It's just the kind of card that can get one out of a spot like this.
Yeah, Hurkyl's Recall is great because, of course, the instant speed, and then you do what you need to do before they redeploy, but once they already have spheres out, Hurkyl's Recall itself costs so much mana that...
And Bob's got a Wasteland for the Volcanic Island. He's got a second Lodestone Golem. Well, looks like we got the max drama result. Bob is going to pull out of last place, put a W up on the board, and all of us 2 and 4s are going to have to sweat going into this last set of games. 2 and 4 could easily wind up tied for last at this point, with both of these guys hanging out at 1-5.
Yeah, absolutely. Raptor's going to play something interesting.
Yeah.
In the last set of weeks. I would definitely have my money on Raptor playing cons cards.
Sure. Treasure Cruise, you think makes the cut in Vintage?
I don't know whether it does or whether it should, but I think Raptor will be playing that or Dig Through Time or something.
Or both, yeah. Dig Through Time and Treasure Cruise are both intriguing, to say the least. And we definitely do have cons legal before the next set of decks.
Yep.
Yeah, you're totally right. That's what Josh is going to be on.
Yeah, I would be very surprised if he showed up without cons cards. Very surprised.
Does he go all the way to Jeskai Ascendancy? Is that just...
It honestly wouldn't surprise me in the slightest after seeing this.
I was going to say there's better combos available in Vintage, but look what he's playing now.
Yeah, exactly. You just play a Ascendancy theme deck, a Jeskai theme deck. Just keep going, go down crazy paths. Just Pyro theme deck. All right, and I'll wrap it.
Yeah, Josh did manage to cast his Black Lotus, but yeah, he's done. 2 Lodestone Golems and a Thorn. Tormod's Crypt to make sure nothing happens graveyard-wise. GG. TGO wins the match.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, TGO wins the match. 1-5. Josh drops to 1-5. Those guys are tied for 9th now.
Yeah, I was going to say, I wonder what percentage of draws that Bob is capable of having on the play where Raptor is then going to have a reasonable chance. Because none of those 3 felt like Raptor had a chance on the draw.
Yeah, that's fair.
And so I don't know if it's extremely common or just kind of common, but that's certainly the way that match looked.
All right. Well, week, what are we at? Week 6? Week 6 is now in the books. Week 7 won't happen for 2 weeks. We've said this a couple times in the show, but next week we are taking a week off while most of us go to Hawaii for Pro Tour Cons of Tarkir. We'll be back in 2 weeks with the last set of decks for the regular season. 3 more matches each to see who makes the top 4 cut, who finishes the last. We can look at the schedule and sort of talk through how we got here. First match of the day, Chris Bakula versus Rich Shay, and I kind of was afraid for Chris's sake that he was going to go 3-0-0-3 with that Terra Nova Shops deck, but he did get the win. He was able to beat Rich, dropping Rich to 2-4, and Chris at 4-2 is now tied with you, actually, for 3rd place.
Right, Chris and Rich just both ran back the decks that they ran last time, which they started well. I think Chris was 3-0, I think started 2-0 and finished 2-1. and then they both went 0-2 to start, and just it didn't work running it back.
That is true. My match against Dave, I got the first game, but Dave had the Singleton Mindbreak trap when he needed it in the second game. Maybe he could have played the game where he didn't have to have it, but it was very frustrating from my side that he did have it. And then not one, but 2 Force of Wills to stop my attempts to win the game on turn 1 and on turn 2 in game 3. So Dave wins that one. He gets up to 3-3, kind of right in the thick of playoff position, drops me to 2-4, where I'm more worried about sweating the whole not last thing at this stage. The highlight for the week, we thought going into the match between Menendian and LSV was going to be the highlight. It was kind of the battle at the top of the standings. And that second game, boy, that was a sweet one, huh?
Oh, yeah.
LSV manages to maneuver around Menendian. Menendian did kind of everything that he wanted to do, seemed like he had the edge, managed actually to resolve not just his own ancestral, but also Luis's all on the same turn, and then Luis won the game anyway. So Luis wins that, moves to 5-1. And then you ran into the Dredge Menace.
Mm-hmm.
Dredge Menace was not having any of that. Martel finished off the 3-0. So how many people 3-0'd this set? Tom did, right? Luis 3-0'd.
Yeah,
Is that it? Dave went 2-1, right? You
aren't even that many people with 3 wins.
Yeah, fair enough.
Half the tournament doesn't have 3 wins total.
Yeah,
So.
Martel and Scott Vargas. Those are your 3-0s for this set. And then in the last one, the battle at the bottom of the standings, Bob Maher does get off the schneid, posts his first win, pulls into the tie for 9th, only a game out of 8th, and we definitely had some drama at the bottom of the standings in addition to the top of the standings heading into this last set. We can show the Week 7 schedule. Oh, I thought we had a Week 7 schedule. Maybe we don't have a Week 7 schedule handy. Not a big deal. We've got it posted on the website. You can go to vintagesuperleague.com if you want to see the schedule, see the standings, and links to deck lists and archives and whatnot. So there you go. Thanks for hanging out, Eric.
Of course. Happy to be here, as always.
Yeah, I will see you next week in Hawaii, and we will see those of you out there on the internet in 2 weeks. See you next time on the Vintage Super League.